The moment my stepmother smiled and slid those papers across the kitchen table, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't a request. It was a setup. "I just need your signature, Morgan," she said, her voice sweet like artificial vanilla. "It's for the family." Family. That word hit different when it came from a woman who'd thrown my dead mom's belongings into a trash bag like expired groceries. I stared at the document without touching it. My name was already printed neatly at the bottom. All I had to do was sign. $400,000. That's what my mom left me. And apparently, that's what my stepmother thought she was entitled to. Behind her, my dad leaned against the counter like a background character in his own daughter's life. Arms crossed, silent, avoiding eye contact. Same man who didn't show up when my mom was dying. Same man who texted me sorry for your loss, like I was some coworker whose dog had passed away. Now suddenly, he had opinions about what I should do with her money. "She's your family now," he finally said, his tone flat, rehearsed. "Your mom would have wanted you to help." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so unbelievably wrong. But I didn't say anything. I didn't argue, didn't cry, didn't even blink. I just looked at the papers, then slowly pushed them back across the table. "I'll think about it," I said quietly. Valerie's smile twitched, just for a second, like a crack in glass. That was the first time she realized I wasn't going to be easy. But she had no idea how hard this was about to get, because what she didn't know was that my mom had already seen this coming, and she had planned for it. Weeks earlier, before this whole sign your life away moment, I found something. A name, a number, a lifeline. Patricia Drayton. At the time, I didn't even know who she was. Just that my mom whispered her name right before she died. "Everything you need is with Drayton, promise me you'll call her." I didn't understand it then. Now it was starting to make sense. Because the way Valerie was acting, the way my dad was suddenly interested in, quote, family finances, in Almadermano. This wasn't random. They had been planning this. And my mom? She had been planning too. Just better. Way better. Let me take you back for a second. Because none of this started at that kitchen table. It started 6 months earlier. The day my mom died. And yeah, I remember every detail. Which sucks. Because some memories don't fade. They just sit there, sharp and quiet, waiting to cut you again when you least expect it. It was a Tuesday. Bright outside. Too bright. Like the world didn't get the memo that mine was ending. My mom, Claire, she was lying in that hospital bed, barely breathing, barely there, but still somehow stronger than anyone I'd ever known. Cancer didn't just take her. It tried. For 2 years. But she fought it like hell. Chemo, radiation, pain. She handled it all without complaining. Still grading papers from her hospital bed. Still asking me about school. Still being her. And then, just like that, she was gone. I was the only one in the room. Not my dad. Of course not. He hadn't shown up once in 2 years. Not when she got diagnosed. Not when she lost her hair. Not when she sold our house just to pay medical bills. Not even at the end. Just me, holding her hand, listening to machines beep like some twisted countdown clock. And right before everything stopped, she pulled me close and whispered that name. Drayton. Like it mattered. Like it would save me someday. Turns out, she was right. Because everything that happened after her death, it wasn't grief. It was survival. I got shipped off to live with my dad like some unwanted package. Court didn't care what I wanted. Didn't matter that he hadn't been in my life for 8 years. Didn't matter that I barely knew him. He was my quote-unquote legal guardian. So I packed 2 suitcases and moved into a house that never felt like home. 3 bedrooms, already full. Valerie, her daughter Brianna, her son Kyle, and me? I got the storage room. No window. Just a cot, a folding table, and a bare light bulb that flickered like it was judging my life choices. First night there, I didn't cry. I just listened. Listened to Valerie in the kitchen talking about me like I wasn't even human. How long until the trust thing gets sorted? That's what she said. Not how is she doing. Not she just lost her mom. No. The trust. That's all she cared about. And right then, I knew. I wasn't family. I was an investment. And they were waiting to cash me out. The pressure didn't come all at once. It built. Slow. Calculated. Like they were testing how far they could push me before I broke. Dinner conversations about money. Casual mentions of bills. Little comments about helping the family. Until finally, they went for it. Full attack. Legal papers. Guardianship petitions. Manipulation from every direction. Even extended family calling me. Guilt-tripping me like I owed them something. Like my mom dying somehow made me responsible for everyone else's problems. And the craziest part? For a second, just a second, I almost gave in. Because when everyone around you keeps saying the same thing, you start wondering if maybe, just maybe, you're the problem. But then I remembered something my mom used to say. Silence isn't weakness, Morgan. Sometimes, it's strategy. So I stayed quiet. I watched. I waited. And then, I made one phone call. to the woman my mom trusted with everything. Patricia Drayton. And that's when everything changed. Because what she told me? It didn't just protect me. It exposed them. Every lie. Every plan. Every single move they thought they were making behind my back. My mom had already predicted it. And she didn't just prepare for it. She built something they couldn't break. An irreversible trust. A legal fortress. And a letter. A letter that wasn't meant for me. A letter meant for my father. A letter that would destroy everything they thought they could take from me. But I didn't give it to him yet. No. I waited. Because something inside me said, the right moment was coming. And when it did, it wasn't just going to hurt. It was going to change everything. The morning I found my mom's things in a trash bag, something inside me snapped so quietly, I don't think anyone else even noticed. But that was the moment I stopped being the girl they thought they could control. I walked into the garage expecting to grab my backpack. Instead, I saw it. A black garbage bag sitting on the concrete floor like it belonged there, like it wasn't holding pieces of my entire life. My chest tightened before I even touched it. And when I did, yeah, I already knew. Inside was everything that mattered. My mom's bracelet, her coffee mug with the chipped handle she refused to throw away, old photo albums, my journal, even the little wooden box she kept on her nightstand. All of it, shoved in there like it didn't matter, like she didn't matter. I stood there for a second, just staring, waiting for someone to say it was a mistake, waiting for Valerie to walk in and laugh it off like, oh my god, that's not trash, I was just moving it. But no one came. No one said anything, because it wasn't a mistake, it was a message. You don't belong here. I picked up the bag slowly and walked back inside. Valerie was sitting on the couch folding laundry like she was starring in some suburban commercial. Perfect posture, perfect smile, perfect fake life. Why are my things in the garage? I asked, my voice steady, way calmer than I felt. She didn't even look up. We needed the space, she said casually. Kyle's getting a gaming setup. I blinked. Those are my mom's things. And this is my house, she replied, finally meeting my eyes. You're living here for free. The least you can do is not take up unnecessary space. Unnecessary. That word echoed in my head like a gunshot. I opened the bag right there in the living room. Started pulling things out. My hands shaking just enough to piss me off. The bracelet was tangled in a scarf. I grabbed it and immediately put it on. It clicked around my wrist like it belonged there, like it always had. Then I found the locket. Opened it. And yeah, that did it. A tiny picture of me sitting on my mom's lap when I was 4. Both of us laughing. Both of us completely unaware of how things would end. The photo was damp. Something had spilled on it. The edges were already starting to blur. And I swear, that hurt more than anything else. Because grief? You can survive grief. But watching memories disappear? That hits different. You can take my room, I said quietly, closing the locket. You can take my space. Valerie raised an eyebrow. But you don't get to throw my mother away. For the first time, she didn't have a response. Just stared at me like she was trying to figure out who I was. Good bigachi. That night, I sat on my cot sorting through everything. Some photos were ruined. Gone. Just like that. Others barely made it. I sealed them in plastic like evidence from a crime scene. Because that's what this felt like. A crime. Not legally. But emotionally? Yeah. They crossed a line. And I wasn't going to forget it. I texted my Aunt June. They threw out mom's things. Her reply came fast. 7 months, baby. You turn 18 in 7 months. We'll get you out. 7 months. That number became everything. Not just time. A countdown. A finish line. A survival clock. Because I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't staying in that house any longer than I had to. But things didn't calm down after that. They escalated. Fast. A few days later, I walked into the kitchen before school and saw another stack of papers waiting for me. Highlighted, prepared, aggressive. Petition for guardianship of a minor's estate. I didn't even need to read the rest. I already knew. They weren't asking anymore. They were trying to take it. Legally. Through the courts. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not fear. Not panic. Just clarity. My dad walked in, adjusting his tie like this was just another normal morning. It's standard, he said. If I'm your guardian, I should manage your finances. Manage? I repeated, looking at him. Or control? His jaw tightened. It's for your own good. Funny how people always say that right before they do something selfish. I folded the papers neatly, set them back on the table, and looked him dead in the eye. No. That one word? It hit harder than any argument I could have made. Because it wasn't emotional. It wasn't loud. It was final. And they both felt it. Valerie especially. I saw it in her face. That moment where she realized, this wasn't going to be easy, so she switched tactics. If she couldn't force me, she'd pressure me. The phone calls started that same day. Grandma, aunts, uncles, people who hadn't checked on me once after my mom died suddenly had opinions about my money. Family helps family. Your father is struggling. Your mother would have wanted this. I almost admired the coordination. Almost. But the thing is, when lies get repeated enough times, they start sounding convincing. Even when you know better. There were moments, late at night, lying on that stupid cot, when I questioned myself, when I wondered if maybe, just maybe, giving them the money would make everything easier. No more tension, no more fights, no more feeling like I was living in enemy territory. But then I'd look at my mom's bracelet, feel it against my skin, and remember, she didn't fight for 2 years just to leave me unprotected. She knew. She saw this coming, and she made sure I'd have a choice, something they were trying to take away from me. So I held on, even when it got worse. And yeah, it got worse. Kyle decided to make things personal, because apparently, being a 14-year-old with zero boundaries makes you brave. He started small, taking my charger, messing with the Wi-Fi, typical annoying little brother stuff. I ignored it. Not worth the energy. But then, he crossed the line. I came home from the library one afternoon and found my journal sitting on the kitchen counter, open, soaked. A glass of water tipped over it like it was some kind of accident. Kyle was sitting there eating chips, didn't even look up. Oops, he said. Just like that. Oops, like he hadn't just destroyed something private, something sacred. That journal wasn't just notes, it was letters to my mom. Things I couldn't say out loud, things I didn't want anyone else to see. And now, they were smeared across the pages, bleeding ink, half-erased thoughts, ruined. I stood there for a second, waiting for anger to hit, waiting to explode. But it didn't come. Instead, I felt calm, scary calm. I picked up the journal, carefully separated the pages, then walked to my room without saying a word. That night, I photographed every single page, saved them, backed them up, protected what was left, because that's what I was learning to do. Protect everything. My memories, my boundaries, my future. They thought breaking things would break me, but all it did was make me smarter, stronger, colder, and way more prepared, because by that point, I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was waiting for the moment, the right moment, the moment my mom had planned for. And when it finally came, it wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, it was something much worse. It was controlled, calculated, and absolutely devastating. The moment my stepmother tried to turn my own family against me, I realized this wasn't about money anymore, it was about power. And she was getting desperate. Sunday dinners at my grandma's house were supposed to be normal. You know, overcooked pot roast, awkward small talk, someone arguing about politics, kids on their phones pretending to listen. Basic American family chaos. But that Sunday? Yeah, that wasn't normal. That was a setup. I felt it the second I walked in. Valerie was already there, sitting at the table like she owned the place, smiling at everyone like she was about to give a performance. And oh, she did. Let us all sit, she said sweetly, like we were about to say grace or something. I took the corner seat, always closest to the exit. Lesson learned. Never sit somewhere you can't escape from. Dinner started off fake normal. How's school? Morgan. Good. How's work at the library? Fine. Nobody actually cared. They were just warming up. 12 minutes. That's how long it took for Valerie to flip the switch. She set her fork down slowly, like she'd rehearsed this moment in the mirror. Then she sighed. The kind of sigh that screams, I'm about to be the victim. I've tried so hard, she started, her voice cracking just enough to sound believable. Oh, she was good. I've opened my home to Morgan, treated her like my own. I almost choked on my water. Treated me like her own? Yeah. If her own meant throwing my mom's memories in the trash and trying to steal my inheritance. But she refuses to be part of this family, Valerie continued, dabbing her eyes with a napkin. And just like that, the room shifted. Everyone turned toward me, judging, waiting, ready to believe her. She's sitting on money her mother left. While we're struggling, Valerie said softly. And she won't help. There it was. The narrative. The lie she'd been building. And now she was delivering it like it was truth. Grandma leaned forward, her expression tight. Morgan, she said, your father is working hard to support you. Don't you think you should help? Help. That word again. Like I owed them something? Like my mom's money was some kind of community fund. I gripped my fork tighter, felt my bracelet press against my wrist, grounding me, reminding me, stay calm, don't react, let them show who they are. Aunt Linda chimed in next. Your mother would have wanted you to support your siblings. I looked at her, really looked at her. She had never met my mom, not once, didn't come to the funeral, didn't call, didn't even send flowers. And now she was telling me what my mom would have wanted? That's when something inside me clicked. These people weren't evil. They were just easy to manipulate. Valerie didn't need facts. She just needed emotion. And she was playing them perfectly. I opened my mouth to speak, to finally say something. But before I could, has anyone here actually seen the trust documents? The voice cut through the room like glass shattering. Everyone froze. Uncle Dean, the quiet one, the one who never got involved. Until now. Valerie blinked, just once. But it was enough. That tiny crack again. What? She said, forcing a laugh. Why does that matter? Because we're all sitting here telling a 17-year-old what to do with her money. Dean said calmly, without knowing the facts. Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Real. I watched Valerie's face. That confident mask? Yeah, it slipped. Just for a second. But I saw it. Panic. Because control only works when no one asks questions. And Dean? He just asked the one question she couldn't answer. Grandma cleared her throat, suddenly very interested in her plate. Let us change the subject, she said quickly. Of course, avoid the truth. Classic. But it didn't matter. The damage was done. Because now, doubt had entered the room. And once doubt shows up, it doesn't leave. Dinner ended awkwardly. No one mentioned the trust again. But the energy? Completely different. Valerie wasn't in control anymore. Not fully. And she knew it. I stepped outside afterward, needing air, needing space, needing to breathe. That house, that table, it all felt suffocating. Morgan. I turned. Dean was walking toward me, hands in his pockets. Casual. But his eyes? Sharp. Focused. I'm gonna be straight with you, he said. I nodded. Your dad called me last week. That caught my attention. What about? He wanted me to look at the trust. Find a way into it. I felt my stomach drop. Of course he did. Of course he tried. And? I asked quietly. Dean held my gaze. I told him no. Simple. Clean. Final. And for some reason, that hit me harder than anything else. Because out of everyone, out of all the people pressuring me, judging me, trying to manipulate me, he was the only one who said no. He didn't like that, Dean added. I'm sure. He gave a small shrug. Look, I don't know exactly what your mom set up, but if it's an irrevocable trust with a trustee, I nodded. It is. Then they can't touch it, he said. Not legally. Not through guardianship. Not through anything. Relief washed over me. Not because I doubted Drayton, but because hearing it from someone else, someone neutral, it made it real. They're wasting their time, Dean continued. And honestly, they're making themselves look bad. I almost smiled. Almost. Why are you helping me? I asked. He looked back at the house, at the people inside, then back at me. Because what your dad asked me to do? He said quietly. That is not something a father should ever do to his kid. That was it. No big speech. No dramatic moment. Just truth. And sometimes, that is more powerful than anything else. Don't sign anything, he added. I won't. He nodded. Then walked away. Just like that. But he left something behind. Something important. Proof. Proof that I wasn't crazy. Proof that this wasn't normal. Proof that what they were doing was wrong. And that changed everything. Because now, I wasn't alone. Not completely. But Valerie? Yeah, she wasn't done. Not even close. Because when manipulation stopped working, she switched to something else. Something lower. Something more personal. And the way she did it? That's when I realized. There was no line she wouldn't cross. The moment my stepsister walked into my room with tears in her eyes, I knew Valerie had just made her next move. And this one? Yeah, this one was low. Brianna stood in my doorway like she didn't even want to be there. Like every step it took to get to my room felt heavier than the last. Hey, she said softly. I looked up from my notebook. Hey, she hesitated, then stepped inside, sitting on the edge of my cot like it might collapse under the weight of what she was about to say. Her hands were shaking. That's how I knew this wasn't really her. What's going on? I asked. She swallowed hard. My mom says, she started, then stopped, closed her eyes, tried again. My mom says if you don't share the money, I can't go to college. There it was, not a demand, not a threat, something worse, guilt, weaponized guilt. I stared at her, not angry, not defensive, just tired. Because this wasn't her idea. This was Valerie using her own daughter as leverage. And that kind of manipulation, it's the ugliest kind. Is that what you think? I asked quietly. Brianna shook her head immediately. No, she whispered. I mean, I don't know, she told you to say it, I said. It wasn't a question. Brianna's silence confirmed everything. Her eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't want to, but she kept saying it's the only way. I exhaled slowly, not at her, at the situation, at the constant pressure, at the fact that even the people who weren't trying to hurt me were still being used to do it. Brianna, I said gently, your college isn't my responsibility. She flinched. Not because I was harsh, because it was the truth. And it's not your fault either, I added. Your mom is the one putting you in this position. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I know, she whispered. And for a second, just a second, we weren't stepsisters. We were just two girls stuck in the same mess, trying to survive it in different ways. She stood up quickly. I'm sorry, she said again. You don't have to be, I replied. But she left anyway. And the second her door closed, I felt it. That shift, that tension in the air. Like something worse was coming. And yeah, I was right. Because Valerie had been listening. Of course she had. She appeared in the hallway like she'd been waiting for her cue. Arms crossed, eyes cold. So that's your answer? She said. I stood up slowly. Yeah, I said. That's my answer. Her jaw tightened. You just made her cry, she snapped. No, I corrected calmly. You did. That hit. I saw it. The way her expression flickered. But she recovered fast. People like her always do. You're heartless, she said. Just like your mother. And there it was. The line. The one she shouldn't have crossed. Everything inside me went still. Not angry. Not loud. Just still. I stepped closer to her. Not aggressive. Just enough to make sure she heard me clearly. Don't ever talk about my mom again. My voice didn't shake. Didn't rise. Didn't crack. And somehow, that made it worse. For her. She stared at me. Waiting for something. A reaction. A breakdown. Something she could use. But I didn't give her anything. And that? That made her uncomfortable. Or what? She said, trying to regain control. I held her gaze. You'll find out. Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Real. For a second, she looked unsure. Like she wasn't completely in control anymore. Then she turned and walked away. But her heels? Yeah. They clicked a little faster than usual. And that told me everything I needed to know. She was losing her grip. But here's the thing about people like Valerie. When they feel like they're losing, they don't stop. They escalate. And she did. Big time. The next move? Yeah. I didn't even see it coming. Because it wasn't loud. It wasn't obvious. It was quiet. Sneaky. And honestly, kind of illegal. I found it by accident. Like most truths. I was digging through the kitchen drawer looking for a pen. The junk drawer. You know the one. Old batteries, random receipts, takeout menus you'll never use again. And that's when I saw it. An envelope. Official looking. From a bank. Something about it felt off. So I opened it. And yeah, that's when everything changed. It was a letter from First National Trust Services. Addressed to Patricia Drayton. But copied to the house. Standard procedure. Except the content? Yeah. Not so standard. It said a request had been made. By Valerie. Claiming she was my legal guardian. Requesting full access to my trust. Withdrawal procedures. Account details. Everything. And the bank? They denied it. Flat out. Because of the trust. Because of Drayton. Because of my mom. I read it twice, then a third time. Just to make sure I wasn't imagining it. She didn't just try to pressure me. She tried to go around me. Pretend to be something she wasn't not. To get access to money that wasn't hers. That wasn't even mine to give. And suddenly, everything clicked. This wasn't just manipulation anymore. This was desperation. I pulled out my phone. Took pictures of everything. The letter, the envelope, the dates, proof. Then I put it back exactly where I found it. Like it never moved. Because now I had something real. Something she couldn't twist. Something she couldn't deny. I emailed everything to Drayton. Just one sentence. She tried to access the trust. Her reply came fast. Faster than I expected. This is exactly what your mother anticipated. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. Not from fear. From realization. My mom didn't just guess this would happen. She knew. Every move. Every step. Every possible angle. She planned for all of it. And Drayton? She was ready. I'm arranging a meeting, she wrote. It's time they hear the truth. That was it. No drama. No panic. Just control. And for the first time since this whole thing started, I felt it too. Control. Because everything Valerie had done, every lie, every manipulation, every illegal little move, it was all about to come crashing down. And the best part? She had no idea. Not yet. But she would. Very soon. Because Tuesday? Yeah. Tuesday wasn't going to be a conversation. It was going to be a reckoning. The moment Valerie walked into that law office like she was about to win, I almost felt bad for her. Almost. Because she had no idea she was about to lose everything. Tuesday morning hit different. Not nervous. Not scared. Just focused. Like the calm before something big. Aunt June picked me up early, coffee in one hand, determination in the other. You ready? She asked as I got in. I nodded. I've been ready. But that wasn't entirely true. No one is ever really ready to watch their family fall apart in real time. Still, I knew one thing. This had to happen. Drayton's office sat above a small hardware store in Culpeper. Quiet, understated. The kind of place you'd walk past without thinking twice. But inside? Yeah, that's where everything was about to change. We got there early. 9:45, Drayton met us at the door. Calm, collected. Like she'd already seen how this would end. Good, she said, looking at me. Let me do the talking. I nodded. Because honestly, I didn't need to say anything. Not anymore. For once, the truth was enough. At exactly 10,000 a.m., they walked in. Valerie first. Of course, dressed like she was closing a business deal. Crest blouse, gold earrings, that same fake confidence glued to her face. Behind her, my dad. Looking smaller, sweating, nervous, like something in him already knew this wasn't going his way. We all sat down. The room felt tight. Not physically, emotionally. Like the air itself was waiting. Valerie placed a thick folder on the table. I almost smiled. Because I already knew. Whatever she brought, it wasn't going to matter. Drayton opened her file slowly. Organized. Precise. Powerful without even trying. Let's begin, she said. And just like that, the illusion shattered. She didn't argue, didn't debate, didn't even raise her voice. She just stated facts. The trust established by Claire Ingram is irrevocable. Valerie leaned forward. But Drayton held up a hand. Not aggressive, just final. Meaning it cannot be altered, accessed, or controlled by anyone other than the trustee. She paused, looked directly at Valerie. That would be me. Silence. Heavy. Immediate. My dad shifted in his chair. Valerie blinked. Just once. Then again. Trying to process. Trying to adjust. Trying to find a new angle. But Richard is her father, she said quickly. He has rights. Drayton didn't even hesitate. No, she said calmly. Not in this matter. That word hit like a brick. No. Clear. Simple. Unbreakable. Parental rights do not extend to an irrevocable trust created by a third party, Drayton continued. Mr. Ingram has no legal standing here. I looked at my dad. Really looked at him. And for the first time, he didn't look like the authority in the room. He looked lost. Valerie tried again. Desperate now. We can contest this. You can try. Drayton replied evenly. But you will lose. That shut her up. For about 3 seconds. Then Drayton reached into her folder, pulled out a single piece of paper, and everything changed. This office received documentation from First National Trust Services, she said. I felt it. That shift. That moment. Valerie felt it too. Her body stiffened. Her hand moved slightly. Just enough to give her away. Regarding an unauthorized attempt to access the trust. Drayton continued. Valerie's face? Yeah. It drained. Fast. Drayton read directly from the letter. The individual identified herself as Valerie Ingram, legal guardian of Morgan Ingram. Boom. There it was. Out in the open. No hiding. No spinning. No denying. My dad turned toward her slowly. You called the bank? He asked. Valerie didn't answer. Didn't even look at him. Because what could she say? That she tried to steal from a 17-year-old? That she lied to a financial institution? That she thought she could get away with it? Drayton leaned forward slightly. Still calm. Still controlled. Impersonating a legal guardian to access a protected trust is a serious matter, she said. She didn't say illegal. She didn't have to. Everyone in that room heard it anyway. Valerie swallowed hard. Her confidence? Gone. Completely. Replaced with something else. Fear. Real fear. And for the first time, I saw her exactly for who she was. Not powerful. Not in control. Just someone who thought they were smarter than everyone else. And got caught. My dad leaned back in his chair, ran his hands over his face. And just like that, everything they built collapsed. The pressure, the manipulation, the lies, all of it, gone. Because the truth? Yeah, the truth doesn't need help. It just needs a moment. And this was that moment. But Drayton wasn't done. Not even close. Because everything so far, that was just the legal part, the facts, the reality. But what came next? That wasn't about law. That was personal. That was emotional. That was devastating. She reached into her folder one more time, pulled out something familiar. Something I hadn't touched since she first gave it to me. A sealed envelope. My mom's handwriting on the front. For Richard. My dad froze. Completely. I don't need to hear that, he said quickly. Of course he didn't. Because deep down, he already knew. But this wasn't about what he wanted. It was about what he needed. Mom asked for this, I said quietly. That was enough. He didn't argue again. Just sat there. Tense. Waiting. Drayton opened the envelope, unfolded the letter, and started reading. And yeah. That's when everything broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, just, completely. Because my mom? She didn't write that letter in anger. She wrote it in truth. And truth? Yeah, truth hits different. Especially when you've been running from it your whole life. The moment my mom's words started echoing through that room, my father stopped being a stranger, and started becoming exactly who she always knew he was. Broken. Drayton didn't rush, didn't soften anything. She just read. Richard, if you're hearing this, then everything I feared has already happened. My dad's hands tightened on the table, his eyes locked on nothing, like he was already trying to escape the words before they hit. I don't write this out of anger, Drayton continued. I write this out of clarity. That word, clarity, hung in the air like a warning. Because clarity doesn't comfort you. It exposes you. I know you, she read. And yeah, that's when it started to hurt, not just for him, for me too, because I realized, my mom had spent years understanding a man I never really knew. You're not a bad man, the letter said. But you are a weak one. My dad flinched, physically, like something inside him cracked on impact. Valerie shifted in her chair, uncomfortable, annoyed, but quiet. For once, she had nothing to say. And weakness, Drayton continued, does just as much damage as cruelty. Silence, thick, heavy, unavoidable. I could hear my own heartbeat, feel my bracelet pressing into my wrist, grounding me, holding me there, because part of me wanted to look away, but I didn't. I couldn't. I know you'll remarry, the letter went on. And I know whoever you choose will see what I built. And want it. Valerie's jaw tightened. There it was. She felt it too. The accuracy. The exposure. The way my mom had seen right through her before she even existed in our lives. And I know you will convince yourself that sharing is the right thing, Drayton read, because it's easier than standing up for your daughter. My dad made a sound. Small. Barely there. But real. Because that wasn't just a sentence. That was his entire pattern. His entire life. Choosing the easier path. Every time. At one point, I thought that made you kind, the letter continued. But now I understand. It makes you a coward. And that broke him. Completely. His hands went to his face, shoulders shaking. Not loud crying. Not dramatic. Just real. Raw. Unfiltered. The kind of crying that doesn't come from pain alone, but from recognition. From finally seeing yourself clearly. And hating what you find. I had never seen him like that. Not once. Not in 17 years. And I didn't know how to feel about it. Because part of me felt nothing. And that scared me. But another part, a small part, felt something else. Not forgiveness. Not even sympathy. Just understanding. Because my mom wasn't wrong. He wasn't evil. He was weak. And weakness? It destroys things just as easily. I'm not writing this to punish you, Drayton read softly. I'm writing this because our daughter deserves better. Our daughter. That hit me. Because even in that letter, even after everything, my mom still believed in him. Still hoped. Still tried. She just lost her mother, the letter said. And she shouldn't have to fight alone. My throat tightened. I swallowed hard. Because that part wasn't about him anymore. That was about me. And for the first time since all of this started, I felt seen. Truly seen. Not as a problem. Not as an obstacle. But as someone worth protecting. She's stronger than you think, the letter continued. But she's still just a kid. Drayton paused for a second. Not for effect. For respect. Then she read the last part. The trust isn't about money. It's about protection. My dad slowly lowered his hands. Eyes red. Face broken. Completely exposed. I couldn't make you the father she needed, the letter finished. So I made sure she'd be okay without one. That was it. The final blow. Clean. Precise. Irreversible. The room stayed silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Because what do you even say after that? Valerie stood up first. Of course she did. Grabbing her folder like it still mattered. This is ridiculous, she snapped. But her voice? Yeah, it shook. Just a little. Enough to give her away. Then she walked out. Fast. Door slamming behind her. And just like that, the strongest person in her story, ran. My dad didn't move. Still sitting there. Still broken. Still processing. And for a second, I thought he might say something. Anything. But he didn't. Because some truths? They don't leave room for words. They just sit there. Heavy. Waiting for you to deal with them. Drayton closed the folder calmly, like everything had gone exactly as expected. Because it had. My mom didn't leave anything to chance. Not even this. Aunt June put her arm around me, pulled me in close. You okay? She whispered. I nodded. But honestly, I didn't know. Because what I just watched was not victory. It was something else. Something complicated. Something messy. Because yeah, I won. The trust was safe. Valerie was exposed. The pressure was gone. But my dad? He wasn't the villain I expected. He was worse. He was human. Flawed. Weak. And now, finally aware of it. And that changes things. In ways you don't expect. We walked out of the office a few minutes later. The parking lot was quiet. Still. Like the world hadn't caught up yet. My dad was sitting in his truck. Engine off. Hands on the wheel. Staring straight ahead. I don't know why, but I walked over. Opened the passenger door. And sat down. We didn't speak at first. Didn't need to. Everything had already been said. I didn't know, he finally said. His voice was rough. Low. Honest. And for the first time, I believed him. Not fully. Not completely. But enough. Yes, you did, I said quietly. He flinched. Again. Because deep down, he did know. He just chose not to see it. I'm not going to fight you, I continued. He nodded slowly. I know. But I'm not giving you the money. That part? Yeah. That was non-negotiable. It's not mine to give, I added. Mom made sure of that. He stared at the dashboard. Silent. Processing. Accepting. I'll stay until I turn 18, I said. 7 months. He looked at me then. Really looked at me. And then? I'm leaving. Simple. Clear. Final. He nodded again. Slow. Heavy. Like he understood what that meant. Like he knew. This wasn't temporary. This wasn't a phase. This was the end. You mother was. He started. Then stopped. Couldn't finish. I helped him. Stronger than you? A small, broken smile. Yeah. He whispered. I know. And that was it. No hug. No apology. No dramatic moment. Just truth. Raw and unfinished. I stepped out of the truck, closed the door, and walked away. Not angry. Not crying. Just done. Because some endings? They don't explode. They fade. Quietly. Like something that was already broken. Finally giving up. But what I didn't know yet was that this wasn't the final chapter. Not even close. Because once the truth comes out, it doesn't just change one relationship. It changes everything. And what happened next? Yeah, no one saw that coming. The moment my grandmother called to apologize, I realized the truth had finally done what I couldn't. It changed everything. Not overnight, not perfectly, but enough. It started with a phone call, unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick it up. Hello? There was a pause. Then, Morgan, it's Grandma. I froze, because the last time she called, she told me to help the family, told me my mom would be ashamed, told me I was being selfish. So yeah, I wasn't exactly expecting what came next. I owe you an apology. Just like that. No excuses. No hesitation. No but. Just accountability. And honestly, that caught me off guard more than anything else. I didn't know the full story, she continued. Valerie told us something very different. Of course she did. That was her whole thing. Control the narrative. Control the outcome. I spoke to Dean, Grandma added. He told me everything. I smiled a little. Of course he did. The quiet ones always end up being the real ones. I'm sorry, Morgan, she said again. I should have asked questions instead of assuming. I leaned against the wall, took a breath. Because this wasn't something I expected to feel good. But it did. A little. Thank you, I said. And I meant it. Not because it fixed everything, but because it was real. And real was rare in that family. Your mother Gayaba. Grandma paused. I wish I had known her better. That one hit. Because yeah, so did I. The call ended simply. No drama. No fake closeness. Just a step in the right direction. And after that, things started shifting. Aunt Linda called next. Same energy. Same apology. Less confident this time. More careful. I shouldn't have said what I said, she admitted. I didn't know. I kept it simple. It's okay. Because honestly, holding on to anger wasn't doing anything for me. I had bigger things to focus on. Like getting out. Like building something real. Like surviving the next few months without losing my mind. But the biggest shift? Yeah, that came from somewhere I didn't expect. Valerie's world started falling apart. And this time, she couldn't control it. Word got out. Small town. You know how it goes. One conversation turns into 10. 10 turns into the whole truth spreading like wildfire. What she did? Yeah, people talked. About the bank. About the impersonation. About trying to take money from a 17-year-old. And suddenly, she wasn't the victim anymore. She was the problem. Grandma stopped inviting her to Sunday dinners. Flat out. Told my dad he could come. But Valerie? Not welcome. That one hit her hard. Because control means nothing if you lose your audience. And slowly, piece by piece, she was losing it. I started noticing the fights, late at night, behind closed doors, her voice sharp, his voice low, arguments about money, about missed opportunities, about how everything went wrong. And one night, I heard something that changed everything. I was walking past the kitchen when I heard Valerie on the phone. Her voice wasn't soft, wasn't sweet, wasn't pretending. It was real. And ugly. He's useless, she said. I stopped walking. He can't even get money from his own kid. I felt something twist in my chest. Not pain, not shock, just confirmation. I married him because I thought he had potential, she continued. Turns out his dead wife was the one with the plan. There it was. The truth. No filter, no performance, just pure intention. This was never about family, never about helping, never about anything real. It was always about money, about what she thought she could get. And now that she couldn't, she was done. I should have checked his finances before the wedding, she added, laughing. A cold, empty sound. Then the call ended, and I stood there, completely still, because that moment, that was clarity. Not just about her, about everything. My dad wasn't her partner, he was an investment, and now that it wasn't paying off, she was cutting her losses, and that is exactly what she did. A few weeks later, she left, just like that, packed up, took Brianna and Kyle, moved in with her mom in Richmond. No big goodbye. No confrontation. No apology. Just gone. And the house? Yeah, it felt different after that. Not better. Just quieter, empty in a different way. My dad changed too. Not dramatically, not overnight, but enough to notice. He stopped talking about money, stopped trying to fight authority. Still fix things. Still, bring like a sickle. Started, recused calculator nojes because the measure the calcul, recuolia, batnianosh, paystea, picap, direct. I replied he it was not your fault, Isananios. And I meant it, because she was just another piece in Valerie's game. And now, she was free from it too. 7 months passed. Slowly, painfully, but also, quickly. So when you're counting down, time moves weird. I focused on school, on work, on building something that had nothing to do with that house. Studied for the SATs, worked extra hours at the library, spent as much time away as possible. And when the results came in, 1380. Not perfect, but good enough. Good enough to get into college. Good enough to start fresh. I applied. Got in. Scholarship, dorm room, freedom. And the best part? I didn't need anyone's permission. I turned 18 on a Tuesday. Opened my own bank account. Just my name. No one else. And when the teller asked if I wanted to add a parent, I smiled. No. That felt good. Really good. Because for the first time, everything was mine. My decisions, my future, my life. And the day I left that house, yeah, that was the real ending. Or at least, that's what I thought. Because what happened after I left, that changed things in a way I didn't expect. Not dramatically, not instantly, but deeply. Because sometimes, the final chapter isn't about revenge. It's about what comes after. And trust me, that part hits different. The moment I walked out of that house with 2 suitcases, I realized something I hadn't felt in years. I wasn't trapped anymore. I was free. Not in some dramatic, movie scene kind of way. No slow motion, no music playing. Just me, standing on that front step, holding everything I owned, and finally understanding, I didn't need anything else. My dad stood in the doorway behind me, coffee in his hand. Same spot he always stood, like life had just paused around him. "Morgan," he said. I turned. Not fully. Just enough. "I know I don't have the right to say this," he continued, his voice low, uncertain. "But, good luck. Good luck." That was it. No, I'm sorry. No, I messed up. No, I should have done better. Just, good luck. And weirdly, I wasn't angry. Not anymore. Because anger means you're still holding on. And I wasn't. I let go of that a while ago. "Bye, Dad," I said. Simple. Clean. Final. He opened his mouth like he wanted to say something more. Like there was something stuck in his chest trying to get out. But it never came. And I didn't wait for it. Because some people, they don't change in the way you need them to. And that is okay. You just stop expecting it. I walked to Aunt June's car, put my bags in the trunk, got in, and as we pulled away, I didn't look back. Not once. Because that house, that version of my life, it was already over. And I wasn't going to revisit it. Not even in memory. My dorm room was small. Like, really small. But to me, it felt like a mansion. Because it was mine. No one going through my stuff. No one watching me. No one asking me for something I didn't owe. Just peace. I unpacked slowly. Set up my desk. Hung up one photo. The same one I saved from that trash bag. Me and my mom. Laughing. Alive. Untouched by everything that came after. I placed the wooden box next to my bed. And that bracelet? Yeah. I never took it off. Not once. It wasn't just jewelry. It was a reminder. Of who I came from. Of what I survived. Of what I refused to become. College life started simple. Classes. Late night studying. Terrible cafeteria food. A roommate who played music too loud and apologized every 5 minutes. Normal stuff. And for the first time in a long time, normal felt amazing. I chose English as my major. Because writing? That was the only place I could say everything I held in. Everything I couldn't say back then. Everything I was still processing. And one day, I wrote it all down. Not for attention. Not for sympathy. Just truth. My story. The trust. The fight. The silence. The letter. Everything. My professor read it. Left one comment at the bottom. "This is powerful. This matters." And for a second, I just stared at it. Because that was the first time someone saw my story as something more than just pain. They saw strength. And maybe, that's what my mom saw too. A few months later, I got an email. From Brianna. "I got into community college," she wrote. "I'm paying for it myself. It's hard. But I think it's better this way." I smiled. Because yeah, she got it now. "If you had given us that money," she added, "my mom would have spent it. And I'd still be stuck. So, thank you for not giving in." I read that line 3 times. Because that's the thing about boundaries. They don't just protect you. They change things for other people too. Even if they don't realize it at first. Then, 6 months later, I got something else. A letter. Handwritten. From my dad. I almost didn't open it. But I did. "Your mom was right," it started. I paused. "Read that again. Your mom was right." 3 words. That is all it took. He went on. About how he'd been going to therapy. How he and Valerie separated. How the house felt empty now. How he finally understood what he lost. And what he almost lost completely. "I don't expect forgiveness," he wrote. "I just want you to know I see it now." I stood there in the dorm hallway reading it. People walking past. Life moving like nothing changed. But inside, something shifted. Not forgiveness. Not closure. Just space. Space to maybe feel something later. Space to decide on my own terms. I folded the letter, put it in the wooden box, next to everything else that mattered, because I wasn't ready to respond, but I wasn't ready to throw it away either. And that meant something. Now it's spring. The trees outside my window are green again. The world feels lighter. And me? I feel steady. Not perfect, not healed completely, but strong. Stronger than I thought I could be. And I get it now. What my mom really gave me. It wasn't just money. It wasn't just protection. It was freedom. The freedom to say no. The freedom to walk away. The freedom to build something that was actually mine. Because here's the truth nobody tells you. Just because someone is family, doesn't mean they get access to your life, your boundaries, your future, and definitely not your inheritance. Love doesn't demand sacrifice like that. Control does. My mom knew that. That's why she didn't just love me. She protected me. Even when she knew she wouldn't be there to do it herself. And now, I carry that with me. Every decision. Every step forward. Every boundary I set. My name is Morgan Ingram. I'm 18 years old. I have my mother's strength, my mother's voice, and my mother's backbone. And for the first time in my life, I'm exactly where she wanted me to be. And I'm never letting anyone take that away from me again.